So I wanted to go over some of the thoughts and takeaways that I had from my treatment the other week. Whenever you go into one of these experiences, you always have some realizations, some little kernels of truth. Like you connected some dots in a different way. You thought about things from a different perspective, and things bubbled to the surface for you to think about and consider. They're not always profound. Sometimes, they're things that everybody says, right? But a lot of these things are things that you had to realize for yourself, right? A lot of things people can tell you the same thing again and again and again until they're blue in the face, but until you realize it for yourself, it doesn't really stick in. It's really important, though, that you don't take an active expecting it to do the work for you, right? Like, it's not going to give you knowledge. It's not going to heal your childhood trauma, fix your depression. It's not going to change who you are and make you a better person overnight. And I actually went into it initially with that misconception. I thought, hey, if I take this funny looking plant and hang out with Mario, that it's going to fix my depression and I'm going to be better overnight. Stop. If that's what you're thinking, that's not how this works at all. Like, it's not a passive medicine where you take the medicine and it fixes you and it does something without you having to be involved at all. That's not at all how these things work. It doesn't do the work for you. You have to put in the work, both during the experience, but more importantly, even after the experience. So I'm going to get into that a little bit before I explain what my takeaways are from my treatment. So the word I'm not allowed to say is a Greek word. It's made up of two Greek words, psyche, and delos. Psyche meaning like yourself, your sense of self. Mainly they're referring to your thoughts, your consciousness. Delos meaning to manifest, to bring to the surface, to bring forth, to shine a light on, right? So taken together, it means to bring to the surface and to shine a light on the things that are within yourself. Everything in these experiences comes from within you, right? The medicine doesn't deliver knowledge to you. It doesn't bring you wisdom. All of these things are things that bubble to the surface that were already inside of you, that were already thoughts you had. You just needed to connect the dots and come to these realizations. So they don't give you answers, but they help you find the answers, if that makes sense, all right? I said before that actives are amplifiers, but they're also meditation enhancers, right? They help you pull back layers of thoughts and really drill down into things and focus on things. The more you drill down, it amplifies those thoughts, makes you think about them and consider them, and brings things to the surface, lets you see things differently, and it lets you just really drill down into areas of your brain that you need to explore or want to explore. Because of that, it's important to go into these experiences with what they call an intention, right? An intention is a focal thought, something that you want to explore or consider about yourself. It's not something that you want to fix, right? It's not a problem you want to solve, but it's something that you want to meditate on and think about yourself. So, for example, you don't go into a journey with the intention of, I want to fix my anger issues, right? That's not going to work at all. You need to go into it thinking, I want to better understand the root of my anger issues. What makes me angry? What are the things that I think it's an overused word, but trigger my anger? What are the things that cause my anger to come forth, and how can I better understand the part of me that gets angry? That's a good intention, but I want to fix my anger and have my anger solved for me. That's not going to happen. Sorry, it's just not. So you have to go into it with an intention, and then things will bubble up and come to the surface, and you'll have some realizations. You'll piece things together. Dots will connect, and once you're done, you use those things that bubble up to make changes to your life, to your daily thought patterns, to make new habits, establish new routines. And this is the process called integration, all right? The work that you do after an experience is oftentimes way more important than the experience itself. In fact, hands down, it's more important, because you're applying the things that you learned, those takeaways, to your daily life in order to make changes to become a better person. Like I said, the medicine doesn't make you a better person, but it allows you to find answers from within yourself so that you can make changes to yourself and become that better person and learn how to deal with your depression and manage your PTSD. I'm always going to have depression. If you have PTSD, I'm sorry, you're always going to have PTSD, but these things will teach you how to understand yourself and better manage your depression, your PTSD, whatever issues you're struggling with, all right? And it's really important with integration that you work with somebody who's trained in this area. I have a therapist that I work with, and he's trained in actives and integration. There are integration coaches that work specifically in this area. One of the reasons that makes actives so effective for integration and this whole process is they increase what's called neuroplasticity. They make your brain squishy and malleable, right? So your brain is more susceptible to change, and for these new habits, new routines, different perspectives on life, it's more likely that those things take hold, right? And actually your brain actually adapts to them, and those changes stick. They also usually give you a brief antidepressant and anxiolytic boost, so that after you have your experience and you're going about integration, you're stabilized for a little, right? Like, it gives you a bit of a boost. You feel stable and normalized. You can establish those new habits, routines, and then once that antidepressant and anxiolytic effect wears off, which it can last anywhere between 6 days to up to 2 weeks sometimes, right? But once that wears off, it's up to you to continue running, right? It's up to you to carry the torch forward and keep going and continue your integration work. It's not a passive process. It will give you that boost. It will help those changes stick, but then once the effects wear off, you have to keep running, and you have to keep establishing those things and those patterns within your life. All right, so what was my intention? I went into it thinking about wanting to think about that part of me that yearns to be motivated, that it wants to be productive and get back into the workforce. I'm really enjoying my time at the food pantry, and it's giving me that sense of accomplishment, right? And I have that, and I just, there are a lot of things that overwhelm me, make me anxious, and weigh me down, and I'm wanting to reconnect with the part of me that motivates me and says, no, I'm going to go out there and, be productive with my life, and not self-isolate in my room and scroll on Facebook for hours, which is an absolute waste of everything about life. So with that said, with my intention out there, let me go over the takeaways I had. Not all of my takeaways necessarily had to do directly with my intention, but some of them did. So with that said, the first takeaway that I had was that life has an expiration date of yesterday. Like I said, these aren't necessarily the most profound things. Like, people have said this before, but live like this is your last day on earth. If I'm wasting time, if I'm, not taking steps towards accomplishing goals, I'm not talking about, grandiose goals of I'm going to change the world or career goals necessarily, but if I'm not doing things actively to move forward in life, what am I even doing, right? I took a break, I went outside, and I was splashing around in the rain. I made a video of that, and then I realized I was standing in like toxic soup at the time, and like all these nasty puddles of oil. But anyway, as I was out there, I started thinking about my grandfather who died 3 years ago, and my grandmother who's still alive. Hey, Grandma. And I was wondering, am I living each and every hour of every day in a way that is honoring to them and to their legacy? Because people say all the time that their children are their legacy, right? Well, I'm my parents' legacy. I'm my grandparents' legacy. Am I carrying on that legacy? Am I honoring that? Am I honoring them and all the things that they struggled through, the times that I'm sure they went with less food than they wanted to, or sometimes even skipped dinner so that my parents could eat, so that I could eat. When I'm stuck in a funk, am I honoring them, or do I need to remind myself that, no, get up, dang it. The people who came before you, they struggled more than this. And you owe it to them to get up and be productive, to seize the day even when you don't want to carpe the freaking diem, And that led to another thought, that this is more metaphorical than it is literal. I thought that a wasted thought is a sin, right? If I'm just burning daylight, if I'm just doing nothing with my time, if I'm not actively, like I said, actively making steps to move forward in life, I'm wasting. To even the idea was to even waste so much of a thought is a crime, whether you believe in God or not, the time that God gave us on this planet is precious. And to waste even a single moment on that, to waste even a single thought, is a sin. Again, metaphorical, not entirely literal with that. And I used these takeaways as part of my integration, actually, in the past week. 2 days later, I told myself, you know what? No, I had reached out to a guy. I found a guy online 3 months ago who was into this meditative rowing idea, similar to what I do. And, 3 months ago, why didn't I reach out to him? I told myself, no, you're going to send this guy an email. The weekend is not going to pass before you send him something. So I sent him an email. He responded in 5 minutes. We had a phone call. We talked for like an hour and had a lot in common. Both had some ideas that we bounced off one another, and it was really helpful. And it's really given me some confidence that, maybe I can apply what I've learned with this rowing meditation and helping other people with their integration through the things that I do. So I actually took action there and followed through on something. And I also started doing a little bit of side work, doing reviewing of AI responses. It's kind of boring work, and I'm not getting a whole lot of work at the moment, but I'm doing some qualifications and tests so I can get more work. And it's kind of like Uber for AI responses, right? Like, they give you work, you review it and submit it anyway. So, but yeah, the point being, I went into this experience wanting to connect with a part of me that craves to be motivated and wants to be productive, and it helped me connect with that, and I was then able to apply it in my life and actually take steps to move forward with several projects. Oh, and I got paid by a client, and I used that money to buy some parts I need for a couple of pieces of gym equipment that I'm trying to invent. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. I'm kind of excited about it. So yeah, like as soon as I was able to take action on something this past week, I decided I'm going to take action. And I'm not going to lie to you, it hasn't been perfect, right? That feeling's starting to wane. It's been a little over a week since my treatment, so those feelings, that the antidepressant effect, the lasting benefits that the medicine gives you, is starting to wane a little bit. And so now it's up to me. I have to keep that fire burning. I have to carry that torch forward and keep consistently being productive and keep this routine going now that I'm trying to establish it. So the next thing that I had come up, and a little takeaway that I had, number 2, was that all of these feelings that we have in life were meant to be experienced and celebrated. All of them are to be savored and enjoyed, whether they be pain, pleasure, or peril, right? Whatever happens in, again, it's not the most profound statement that, find joy in everything, right? Pretty much any religious theological book has some statement to that effect, as have hundreds of philosophers over the years, to find joy in all things. And not to get religious on you, I don't want to bring up religion or politics on this channel, but to bring up a Bible verse, that often quoted football verse of "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me," which, like, oh, I can move mountains because I believe in Jesus. And that's not at all what that verse is about if you look at the context of it. It starts out like this. It says, "I've learned how to be content with whatever I have. I know how to live on almost nothing or with everything. I've learned the secret of living in every situation, whether it is with a full stomach or empty, with plenty or with little. For I can do everything through Christ who gives me strength." So whatever my situation is in life, whether, again, if it's pain, pleasure, or peril, I can find joy in that, and I can find a way to, be content. And I may not have everything. I may be living with my parents right now. I find that to be so lame, and I beat myself up about that all the time. And I use that to motivate myself, to be honest with you. But, all of these experiences, the massive heartbreaks that I've had, the shame that I've felt, the guilt that I've felt in some instances, the extreme exuberance, the wonder that I've seen, the love, all of these things were meant to be enjoyed and experienced and savored like a fine wine. No matter how much life sucks, that's part of the experience, right? Again, nothing too incredibly profound, but it's one of those things that you have to understand it for yourself. The third thing that came up was I was thinking about my friend from grad school. His name's Awesome. He's from Nepal. He's Hindu, and he's just all around great guy. And he used to say to me regularly, he'd say, Andrew, I want to learn. I came to America because I wanted to learn to think like an American. What he meant by that is, in a lot of other countries, parts of Europe, Eastern countries, they're very, facts heavy in their education, and they really stress memorizing things, but they don't think about the creative things, about, thinking outside the box and those sorts of things. So he really wanted to come to America to learn to think like that, to think differently, to be more abstract about his thinking, right? And I realized last Thursday or 2 Thursdays ago that I needed to learn to live like him and to see and appreciate life in the way that he does. What do I mean by that? A lot of Eastern cultures, they never experienced the Enlightenment, which we did in the West, that idea of the individual, that, individual rights, that I direct my own legacy, that the rugged individualism of America, really. They never experienced that, and they have a much more communal culture. And there are pluses and minuses to both, but I think there needs to be a balance. The idea of rugged individualism is not entirely bad, but when taken to an extreme, it can be. Likewise, when taken to an extreme, the Eastern cultures, with their more focus on, family first, communal first, the society first, when taken to an extreme, yeah, it leads to things like communism, which isn't exactly good either. So, but there's got to be balance. And what I mean by that, what I wanted to learn, what I need to learn from Awesome is understanding that we're all part of this fabric of life. The guys at the gym who they don't know me on a deep personal level, but they know enough about me to know to put a smile on my face, right? That we are communal creatures. Even if you're an introvert, which I typically count myself as an introvert, though I have learned that being an extrovert is a learned skill. You can become an extrovert with enough practice at it, to be honest with you. But, we need to have that sense that everybody is connected and that we're all in this together, which is much more of an Eastern cultural type of thing, right? Less of the focus on the individual, more of a focus on, what, I got you. You're my friend. I'm going to help you out. And, when you're going through rough times, there are people there to support you, whether it's your family, your friends, what have you. So, yeah, just a little perspective from him that he wanted to think like an American. I need to learn to live and understand life like a Nepalese guy. So yeah, those are just some of my takeaways. I know I went really long in this video. This is my first long video in a while. It's probably going to do like crap. But yeah, those are some of my takeaways from my treatment the other week, and just a little explanation about how this therapy works, how integration works. So what questions do you have? Are you curious about how therapy with actives works, how the integration process works? Are you not sure about some of those details in there? Do you want to know, what these compounds necessarily feel like and what the experience is like? I can kind of touch on that a little more. What questions do you have? Let me know what you want to see, what you want to hear me talk about in the comments below. And since I'm still a small channel, I have the time and the ability to respond to each and every comment. I really do, even the ones that the platform likes to block because you guys are like trash talking me. I still respond to those, man. I love to see it. So let me know in the comments below. Leave me a comment, give me a subscribe, give me a shout out, a share, whatever you got. I really appreciate it, guys. And thanks. I'll talk to you later.